All right, you guys, it is Tuesday. It is 9 a.m. Central Time-ish. I'm Trisha Turner. This is Rise and Thrive. Rise and Thrive is here every week to bring you guys something of positivity to help you grow your business, grow your life, bring hope in a dark world that we all live in sometimes. And today's guest is super cool. Y'all, this is a story that I heard on Instagram. I did not know him. I don't know him. And I was intrigued immediately by his story, blown away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have you as a guest on my podcast because this podcast talks about faith, family, finances, fitness, all those things that are super important to me, especially. And this is one of those stories. And so I've got Shawn Getty with me today, and I'm super excited. Welcome, Shawn.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for being so accommodating. So, yeah.
I've been chasing him since I saw that story and like, please, whatever, like we'll record it, whatever we got to do. I got to get you on here. You got to share this message.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Y'all. Okay. So for one, Shawn, we got to tell everybody where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. So Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which as we're talking, it's like the Texas of Canada. And I'm in real estate. Started, this is my 5th year in the business. 3 years pretty much solo, and then 2 years now building a team. And I think it was it. Was there another question part of it?
No. That's it. Now, you're from Canada too, aren't you?
Yep, born and raised.
Yep, right there. And y'all, off the air, like he's told me some not so fun facts that are I did not have a clue about. So we're probably going to talk a little bit about that. But Shawn, I want you to you've only been doing real estate for 5 years. You're growing. So for one, you guys need to follow him. He's got 57 agents on his team, which that in and of itself is a lot. That's like herding cats. But prior to real estate, like where were you in this part of your life that made you share that story that I heard kind of, and you were at a really dark place and you're clearly not anymore. So walk people through kind of, if you could.
Yeah. Like the very beginnings.
Yeah.
So most of my adult life, I had just like a normal, good life, normal jobs, all that stuff. And what had happened is my life had fallen apart completely. All my own fault. Everything is always our own fault, right? But I ended up losing my marriage, my job, and my health all within like literally a 30-day span. So yeah, and what happened is, so I was married. We're together for 7 years, and we're only married for 3 months. And we just had like a crazy, unexpected thing happen in my wife's life, and didn't cope with it very well. And we had like a super happy marriage. We had no fights, no problems, no nothing. And all of a sudden she just wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't nothing. Completely, I couldn't figure out what's going on. And her friend ended up calling me one day and asked me to move out. So I did. And when I moved out, obviously I wasn't handling that really well because I couldn't compute like what happened.
Yeah.
And like there was neither one of us did anything bad to each other. It was something completely outside. And I was obviously not performing well at work. So then I ended up getting fired, and I play hockey like all Canadians play hockey. And I ended up getting pushed from behind pretty bad on a play going into the boards. And I broke my arm in 9 places. So completely shattered it. Yeah. Yeah. The elbow just, you could probably see the scar still.
Holy crap. Yes.
Yeah. Broke 9 times on the way up, and then my shoulders all smashed and everything. So I couldn't work out. I couldn't play any sports. I'd lost my job and I'd lost my marriage. So all I did was spiral into a horrible depression. I took a year off, and I spent all my money, racked up as much debt as you possibly can. And then I decided it'd be a great time to start a career in real estate. So I was out of money. This is probably a great time. I'm behind on my mortgage. I'm missing my car payments. And why not start as realtor?
A whole new career.
Yeah, I didn't even have money to start the course or nothing. Yeah, like it's crazy. Back then, I was an atheist, like a complete atheist.
Seriously?
Big time. Yeah, big time.
Had you always been like that?
Yeah. Because what happened is my mom's side of the family is Jewish, and then my dad's side is Catholic. So one year we're celebrating Hanukkah, and one year celebrating Christmas, and then there's Jesus, and then there's not, and then I don't know one, and right. So it was just like nothing made sense to me, right? I'm like, this is all hogwash, right? And so I just went along my, like, we were never forced to go to any kind of church or synagogue or nothing. And yeah, so it just came up without faith, and then just never needed it. And then I remember like anytime I would do anything for somebody, they'd be like, "Oh, thank God." I'm like, "Why thank God?" I'm like, "I'm the one that did that." Like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
But that was one of my main questions actually when I went to church was exactly that. I go, "Why do we give praise to Jesus for everything?" I now know, but back then I didn't. So, anyways, yeah, I'd go on. I took the course, and so I lost my job. I lost everything. I was so deep in debt. The only thing I owned was literally debt and depression.
Mm.
I had to get a job as a bouncer because they would pay me cash, and no money could hit my bank account. Any money that hit my bank account, they would just keep it. Like that's how far back I was on everything.
Oh yeah.
So I was working literally nights as a bouncer for cash, and I'd always had blue collar or white collar sales jobs. So I was knocked off my high horse pretty bad.
Oh, I bet.
And so, anyways, I was studying for the course, and it took me about 11 months to get a couple pages into the first chapter. So I was doing nothing. I was just staring at it and staring at the wall, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I was running out of time because you only have a year or so to do the course, and I'm 11 months in. I haven't even started. And I remember sitting there feeling sorry for myself one day, and I'm like, you know what, like this is just stupid. Like if I just put the energy, I used to say the universe all the time. And I'd say, if I just put the energy in and I do the things that I'm supposed to do, the universe will take care of me, and the money will show up. I go, I don't know how it's going to show up, but it will. And this is the time where I'm running completely out of money. Like I remember one time I found a toonie, which is a Canadian thing, but it's $2. And I had to decide whether I was going to go buy a can of tuna or put $2 into my gas tank. And I put the $2 in my gas tank because I was going days without food, which is great. I'm a
That
big
is crazy.
Yeah, like I don't like not eating, right?
No.
And so anyways, I had no money for the test. I had no money for the second part of the course. I had no money for the licenses. So I was like, what's the point of even trying? And then I said, like, put the energy out there and the universe will take care of me. I now know that was God rewarding my work. But at the time, it was, again, atheist. So studied. I did a chapter and a half that day, which is more than I'd done in 11 months. And my uncle the next day calls me out of the blue. And the crazy thing is my uncle, we never had a relationship. We didn't have a bad relationship or anything, but we wouldn't call each other on their birthdays. It's probably been 10 years since I talked to him.
Wow.
Right. And he calls me out of the blue the next day. And he goes, Shawn, he goes, how's things? I'm like, oh, good. He goes, yeah, I was talking to your mom, and she said you're trying to get into real estate. I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. Right. He's like, oh, cool. He says, well, do you need anything? I'm like, yeah, actually, money. He's like, oh,
Everything.
Really? Yeah. I just told, because I'm like, whatever, like I got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I need money. He goes, oh, okay, no problem. He goes, here's my credit card. And he goes, anything you need real estate related, just put it on the card. And he's from Arizona, actually. And so he said, just text me before so that I know, like, if the call comes, like, hey, there's a random Canadian charge on the card to put it through. But he goes, yeah, anything real estate, just put it through. So I finished the whole course within like a few days after that, took my test, started the second part, finished that in a couple of days. And I was licensed within like a week and a bit of actually committing, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. After 11 months of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember even calling my uncle because I passed the tests. And then I had to get the licensing. It's about $2,000 to do your licensing here, to get your board memberships and all that stuff. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, this is like $2,000 now, right? Like, this is not cheap. He's like, yeah, it's real estate. Put it on there. So that's literally how I started in real estate, with like literally no money, nothing.
So here comes this uncle out of nowhere. Yeah. When you're like down and out, got nothing left, and you have an empty tank of everything. And that, I believe, was a sign. Surely, like that was God hinting that to you, right?
Clearly, God loves a hard worker, right? So you put work and God will reward you 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
So then what'd you do?
Yeah, then it got worse. Yeah, then it got worse. So I got licensed. I started at EXP. My uncle actually happens to be at EXP, so that was
okay.
Kind of a connection. And he actually was with, I don't know if you know who the people are, but Glenn Sadford's the owner. Yeah. And he was with Glenn 5 years before EXP existed. So he was at like his previous brokerage, and when Glenn started this, he came over with him. So like,
Okay.
he was showing me emails of before EXP even existed of like, hey, we should start this cloud-based thing and like all this crazy shit. So it's kind of cool, like to see like
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, yeah. So it's neat, right? So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, so when I started, there was only 50 people in our province, and for you people in the States, that's like a state. So there's only 50 EXP agents in the whole place, and you got to sign a mentor. And back then, the mentor was not all that great. So I remember, well, because there's only one, right?
Yeah,
It's a small brokerage at the time, right?
for sure.
I think there was 11,000 people worldwide at the time,
Yes.
right? So, anyways, I got to sign the mentor, and there's only one. I had no choices. There wasn't like choose between these three. This is your mentor. And I went to them and I'm like, listen, I'm dead broke, like absolutely broke. So whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to get up off of this chair and I'm going to go do it because I need to make a sale today, right now.
Yeah.
And I started in March. And so the first thing they told me was to do a pumpkin drive. And I'm like, pumpkin drive? Like in October? And they're like, yeah, you meet the neighbors and I'm like, do you want me to like steal the pumpkins
Right.
or
I
like,
have no money.
like where am I supposed to get these from? And how does that get me a sale today, like right now, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm like, okay, next, like, let's see what the next idea is, right? And then solo is so dumb. And then so the next one was, okay, well, you can hang out at coffee shops and talk to people coming and going in the coffee shop of communities where you want to work. And I'm like, I can't afford a coffee. I'm like you want me to just loiter in a coffee shop and just
Right.
see if like this is crazy. I go, you know what? I'm good. I don't need your third one. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna go talk to the broker. Yeah. So I went to the broker and I'm like, hey, listen, like I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the mentor thing. Because back then, your first three deals when you're a new agent, your first three deals, you got to pay 20%
Yeah.
the mentor, right?
Right.
So there's the brokerage split, and then you got 20% to them. And I'm like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not giving them fucking 20% for this. I mean, like this makes
No.
right. And so I go to the broker. I said, I'm not doing it, right? Like, well, you have no choice. This is how this is set up, and blah blah blah. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not? Of course I do. I go, I quit. He's like, what? I'm like, I quit. I go, I'm not doing this. I'll go to another brokerage where there's actually training. Like I'm not,
Yes.
right? Like I'm not doing it. So sorry. So then he's like, okay, no, stay. Because again, there's nobody here, right? 50 people in the whole
No.
state. And yeah, so he goes, stay, but you're on your own. You got to figure it on your own. I'm like, good. I'd rather figure it on my own. And then we had the EXP world, right?
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a bunch of training in there. So I remember I logged in and there's a front desk person. And I log in like, hey, I'm brand new. I've heard there's a lot of training in here. I go, where do I go to get the training? And they're like, oh, great, good. He goes, you got to take the boats for a ride. I don't know if you've ever seen the world.
I have.
It's an island and there's
Yeah.
right? So there's boats. So like, oh, go take the boat. It's like Sims. So go take the boat for a ride. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I want to sell houses. I don't want to play a little video game.
I'm broke.
Yeah, broke, right? So
I need to make some money.
Yeah, so I log out of there. So my uncle, like I love him. He's amazing. I wouldn't be here without him, but he's older. He's from Arizona. He's been a realtor since he's 18. So he's been a realtor.
Wow.
He's been a realtor for like 60 years or 70.
Holy crap.
Crazy, right? And so like not that he doesn't want to, but he just can't help me. Like
He doesn't know.
He's been repeating referrals since before I was alive, right? It's like it's just you can't learn, unfortunately, from people who've been around too long.
No.
And yeah, so anyways, I got no brokerage, I got no world, and I've got no office to go to because again, it's virtual, right? It doesn't
Right.
exist.
And no money.
And no money. Yeah. So I'm like, fuck. Okay. So I literally Googled, how do I sell a house today? Search. And I saw all the stuff that came up. So like door knocking, open houses, warm call, cold calls, all that stuff. A lot of this is like back in 2019. So it's not like it is today where there's 10 million TikToks and all these coaches and influencers and all that stuff where you can get information. Back then, there was not a lot.
No.
Three main guys really, right?
Yeah.
And all of their stuff was very scripted and very aggressive. And I didn't like it. Excuse me. I didn't like it at all. but I saw the things that I was supposed to do, right? I'm like, okay, these are the activities. So at least I know the activities. So let me go do them and I'll figure it out on my own. So I remember like the first door I knocked, right? So I knocked on the door, guy answers. I'm like, oh shit, right? So he's like,
Now what?
he's like, hello. I'm like, hello. He's like, can I help you? I'm like, do you want to sell your house? What? I'm like, what? So anyways, that didn't go very well at all.
No.
Yeah. So then actually I'm getting my first listing my first week with my license. So I got a $1.35 million listing. I'll tell you about this. And back then our average price was just over $400,000.
Oh crap.
Yeah. So you can imagine like a 3 or a 4X
Yeah.
the benchmark price. You guys use benchmark down there? Like
Yeah.
the average, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I get this listing, and I remember I called the guy, and I did warm calls. I got a lot of business from warm calls, which is truly just checking in on people. How you doing? How's it, right? No sales at all. No, like send me some business. It's just truly just, hey, how are you? Right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to the guy, asked him how his life is, whatever, and he's like, "How's yours?" I'm like, "Oh, good. I just got into real estate." He's like, "Oh, you did? It's amazing." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I got a house for you to sell." I'm like, "Really? Whose?" He's like, "Mine." I'm like, "Really? When?" He's like, "Now." I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, come get it up." I'm like, "Oh, fucking crazy." Okay,
Right.
right? And that's how hard the first one was, right?
Which is insane.
So yeah, so we get the pictures and measurements and all that stuff, and I get the invoice for it, and I got no money. And the photographers don't give you the collateral, like they don't give you the photos and the measurements until you pay,
Yeah.
especially when they know you, right?
Oh yeah.
So I just sent the invoice to the seller. I'm like, hey man, here's the bill. And he's like, what's this? I'm like, well, it's for the pictures and the measurements. He's like, don't you guys normally pay that? I go, no. You're selling your house. You got to pay. Because somebody had to pay, right?
Yes.
So, anyways, I didn't know if we were a designated or common law brokerage. I didn't know nothing about the pay. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so he paid for the photos and everything. And
Holy crap.
yeah, on a 1.3 million, so on a 3 or a 4X your average market price, he paid and fired me 3 weeks later because again, I had no clue what I was doing, like zero.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, I got fired from that one. I put up a couple more listings from door knocking and stuff. Both of those ones I got $800,000 each. I got fired from both of those on the same day. Yeah. Yeah. On the same day I got fired. And again, like I'm
Oh my
scrambling
gosh.
as much as I can to get stuff up, right? And like just to give you a level of how broke I was at the time, I was selling my furniture for food. So I'm literally sitting on the floor selling my couches and my lamp, like everything. And yeah, I'm selling my furniture for food, trying to pretend on Instagram that life is okay and it's not. And I'm a bouncer, so I'm just working at a club, and I live in Calgary, which is a cold place. It gets to minus 40, minus 50 in the wintertime here. Yeah.
Holy
We
crap.
we get 1 week every year where we're the coldest major city on earth. Every year we get at least 1 week. Yeah, it's crazy.
I would die there, I think.
Yeah, and I have to stand outside for
Like,
8 hours.
seriously, I'd just die there.
It was crazy. Yeah. And like I remember my bar shift started like around 8:30 at night and it would finish at about 3 in the morning. And then if I ever had paper, because I did it for my whole first year, if I had paperwork or anything, I would do paperwork from like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and I would go to sleep. And I was going through such depression, I couldn't sleep, but I would just go to bed and I'd wake up around 7:30, 8 o'clock, go to the gym, and then I would start working for 9:30. And I would work from 9 right up until 7:30 to 8:30, right until my shift started at the bar. And then I would work for the bar. I was working 20, 21 hours a day, literally every
Wow.
day. But I'll kind of get into that in a minute too. But I remember I'd ask the bartenders, making old fashions and stuff, right? I'm like, hey, can you save that orange? Because you know the orange peel.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, can you save that orange for me for after the shift? And I would ask the bartenders, and they would always fucking throw it in the garbage, all of them. And that's why today I still won't hire fucking bartenders.
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
why do you do that?
they don't care, right? When they're fucking whatever, they're busy and they're throwing it out,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, and we had to use to clean the garbages and put the kegs out at the end of the night. So there I am looking at my oranges that I was going to eat this, my only meal for the day, and it's sitting there in the garbage, right? So yeah, that was the position that I was in when I started. It took me 5 months to do my first deal, and I'll kind of circle back to this. But yeah, 5 months to do my first deal, and then the next month I did 17, and I ended up with
17
40.
deals the next month?
The next month, 17. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It picked up pretty quick there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I did, so I ended up with 44 that year. 38 were listings because everybody just sold their house and got divorced, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
And then the second year I did 103, and that was through COVID, the first year of COVID. So everybody was locked down, and Canada was really bad for the lockdowns. I used to get ridiculed and yelled at and screamed at for showing houses and being out and about doing deals. But I had no choice, and people needed to move, right?
Yeah.
And then the next year after that, I did 186 as a solo agent. So I did 44, 103, and then 186. And then I started to really kind of lean into teams and trying to start a team.
Yeah.
Failed absolutely miserably at that, like so bad. And I still did a little over 100 deals myself that year, but it was not good. And then, yeah, we'll see where we finish this year, but we should do somewhere around 450 deals this year, probably, I would say.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge jump.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so, but to circle back in that first year, yeah, like I was so stressed for cash, and I was so out of money, and I was trying so hard and nothing was working, and I was spinning my wheels so bad that my body started to shut down. So what happened is, yeah, it was so bad. It was my heartburn was so bad that it started to burn my vocal cords. And yeah, so I was literally losing my voice, and the doctors are like, you burnt these so bad that you'll probably never get your voice back. I was throwing up all the time. I was eating like a bottle of Tums, like the bottles, about a bottle a week, or Pepto-Bismol like every day or two. And I was just trying to get the stomach, but I couldn't, right? So that was from the stress. My resting heart rate was 95 beats per minute. I'm a big guy, so my heart rate should normally be like 50, 55. So my resting heart rate was 95 beats per minute, which is double what it should be. Yeah. And a big part of that was because my lungs were operating at 30% capacity. So it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest the whole time. I couldn't breathe. And yeah, and it was all from stress. I kept going for so many tests and so many doctors and so many specialists, and they were shoving cameras down my nose, and they were doing all these tests and everything, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Like, you shouldn't have anything wrong with you, but it was the stress. The stress was causing my body to kill itself. Yeah. The worst thing that happened is I actually gave myself an autoimmune disease. And so it's hives. I don't know if anybody's ever dealt with hives that's listening to this.
I do.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's freaking horrible.
Yeah. So I'd never had them before. I didn't know any better. I just thought I got allergic to something, right? Because it just came out of the blue. And so I booked myself a allergy test, right, with the doctor. And it's $45 or whatever it was, right? And I went in there, and I'm waiting for the doctor. So the nurse comes, and she goes and checks you off all whatever she got to do. And she looks at me, and she's like, oh, she was like, we need to give you a refund. I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, I need to know what's wrong because this is crazy. And she's like, no, like I can't say anything. The doctor has to, but we're going to refund your money. I'm like, okay. And so she leaves, and the doctor comes in. He's like, whoa. I'm like, what? He goes, this is the worst case I've ever seen, ever. He goes, you should be in a textbook. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. And it was like from my head to my toe was just.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've got some videos of it. I was just covered in hives. Sometimes my eyes would swell shut. I couldn't my eyes, and my lips would get so big. I would drool and stuff all the time because I couldn't close my lips.
Oh, and, wow.
Right. And it was everywhere, my whole body. And yeah, he explained it to me, and he's like, yeah, basically it's like your body and your blood is coagulated. It can never go back. And he goes, think of it as like you cooked an egg. You can't put that egg back in a shell ever again. It's done now. And I remember leaving there, and I'm like, you know what? If I did this with my mind, I can undo it with my mind. And I was supposed to be on pills my whole life. I'm sure you've talked the treatments and all that stuff. Yeah. So I never ended up getting any treatment. And I very, very rarely get flare-ups now. I went like 2.5 years without a flare-up. So, but anyways, that was the stress I was under. And then the depression, yeah, there was like the first year in real estate, I kind of try to cover all this here, but the first year, yeah, I tried to kill myself 2 times. So that was the lowest.
Was that during that time where like you weren't selling when you were getting fired from those listings?
one at the beginning and then one after. Yeah. And the crazy thing is like I'm afraid of heights, and both times I was on the wrong side of the balcony leaning back. And I remember just, yeah, I'm just holding onto the rail and I'm just leaning, and I'm like, man, like just let go. Like just let go. Because if you let go, you let go of all your problems and all of your, it's just done. Like just let go. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't let go. And thank God I didn't. But it's wild to think. I still don't like going to the ledges of balconies and looking over, right?
No,
But yeah,
me neither.
yeah, it was crazy. So one time I tried before this situation, and this is kind of what changed everything for me. But I was putting out open house signs one day, and I was having a particularly bad day. They were all bad, but this one was a little bit worse than the others. And I'm just feeling sorry for myself. And as I put out the signs, I'm like, you know what? Like this again, same thing. Like this isn't my story, and this isn't how I go out. And I'm better than this, right? And I'm not trying as hard as I really could be. And yeah, so I made a deal with myself. I said I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not going to make a single complaint. All I'm going to do is work. That's it. All I'm going to do is work. And if I'm not financially in a better place and emotionally in a better place by the end of this year, then I will kill myself. And then I went and I wrote that on my calendar. So December 31st, 2019, your last day on earth, like literally on my calendar.
Which is insane to even write that on a calendar. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
it's pretty final.
It's 100% final. Yeah. So yeah, I literally worked like my life depended on it, right? Like,
Yes.
like try to question me on some things, but I would go up to 300 doors in a day, and be like, no,
Really?
nobody knocks 300 doors in a day. I'm like, have you ever worked like your life depended on it? And they're like, well, like that would take all day. I'm like, yeah, it exactly took like from 9 a.m. to almost 9 p.m. Like all
Were you
day.
delivering anything to them, or were you just knocking on their door?
I was figuring it out, right? Like I didn't have scripts or anything back then. So, but the nice thing is because of the volume that I was doing, I developed scripts through that time.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I ended up getting very, very good at door knocking and very, very effective ways and scripts. Because when you do that many reps in a short amount of time, you build a ton of muscle on it, right?
Yeah.
And because like let's say you do 10 or 15 or 50 doors a day, you're not going to get the same education as if you do 100 or 200 or 300 a day. It just that volume isn't there to ever learn the lesson the same way.
No.
So yeah, I just got extremely good at everything that I did because of the volume of the conversations that I had, and that translated into all the deals, basically. Yeah.
When was the turning point when you were like, I've made it. I'm out of this woods, this dark place that I'm in? Where was that?
There was one really big defining moment that started that thought. It still didn't come out, but yeah. So it was actually in November. November is a big month for me. I don't like. It seems to always be. It's the month I found God. It's the month that this stuff happens. It's everything. So, anyways, I did the 17 deals in the 1 month, and I still wasn't feeling better. I knew that the financial burden was going to start coming off. Deals had to close, right? But I knew it was going to start coming off. And I still was dead inside. I was just a shell of a human walking. I was not alive at all. I was living, but I wasn't alive. And so I just put a post out there, and it was just so random. I didn't really know why I was thinking about it, but I just said, I'm still new. I'm like 9 months in the industry or whatever it was. And I know I don't know everything, but I just did 17 deals in a month. And if you're feeling like how I felt, where you have no clue what to do, I'm going to put on a free course. And if anybody wants to come in and hear what I did to get these deals, it's there for you. Like it's just whatever, right? And I didn't think anybody would fucking reply because I'm brand new. I'm just like, let me just put right. Like, who am I to do this shit?
Yeah.
And yeah, but like I just didn't want. I know other people felt the way that I felt, where they were just lost, and if somebody would just show them what to do, they would do it.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
But it wasn't, at least at that time, for what I saw, it wasn't available.
Yep.
And so yeah, I made that post, and 4 people replied, And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, really? Right? I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I wouldn't have replied. But anyways, yeah, so 4 people replied. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll start tomorrow. And so I sat down that night and I'm like, okay, what were the most important things that got me those deals? Right. And I had to actually sit and think about it because I just really didn't know at the time because I just
Yeah.
did. I
You were
just
just
did.
working your face off.
I was just moving. Right.
Yeah.
And so I sat down. I'm like, okay, it was definitely mindset was for sure the most important thing.
Yes.
And so I wrote out just on paper, right, on loose leaf paper, I wrote out all my mindset stuff that helped me kind of achieve those things. And we all went the next day, and it was a Zoom, but it was the free Zoom, so 40 minutes it turned off, and right, and it was just a black screen. We didn't even log in with our faces. It was literally just,
No, that's crazy.
and there was no presentation, there was no nothing. It was just me talking.
Just you talking this black screen and you just talking.
Yeah, just talk. You're literally talking shit.
Yeah.
And the 40 minutes came, and all of a sudden the Zoom shut off, and I'm like, what the hell just happened, right? And I'm like, fuck, I don't even know if they were listening, whatever, right? I'm like, well,
Was there anything even there?
yeah. So like, I'll log back on and let's see if they log back on, and I did, and all 4 logged back on. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're on to something here, right? And yeah, so then we finished that day, and everybody was super happy and super thankful, and they're like, okay, this is great. I'm like, okay, wow, good. Okay, well, meet here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll pick it up from there. And then so that night, like after I finished work and everything that night, I'm like, okay, well, what else got me those deals? I'm like, oh, it's definitely door knocking and open houses, where the rest of the main deals came from. So I'm like, okay, so I wrote that out, and we all showed up on day 2, and another black screen and my 40-minute timer and everything, and I gave everybody what I knew about door knocking and open houses, and everybody really loved it, and they were super happy and everything. I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, okay, great. They're like, okay, well, what are we learning tomorrow? I'm like, well, we'll see. I don't know, right? And then so that night, I'm like, okay, well, where did the rest of my deals come from besides that? I'm like, oh, it's definitely warm calls and cold calls where more deals came from. So then I wrote out the scripts and the stories
Yeah.
for that. And then so everybody logged in the next day, and we went over that, and everyone was super jacked about that. And everyone's so happy. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then like, okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow, right? And I'm like, well, no, not tomorrow, because at this time I just started randomly. So that was Friday. And I'm like, no. I go, we'll pick it up on Monday. You guys, let's work the weekend and we'll pick it up on Monday, right? So I'm like, I wonder if they're going to come, because now it's the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So log in on Monday, 4 people show up, and whatchamacallit, we go over the warm calls, cold calls, and then the 4th day was social media. And back then, social media was nothing compared to what it is today.
Yeah.
Nobody, 2019, no one was doing much on there
No.
for real estate. And I'm like, okay, well, I was getting a couple deals off social media. So here's what I do with social media. And everybody was super jacked about that. And like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. And then that night I went to write the next day. I'm like, shit, I'm out of stuff.
Now what?
That's all but I was doing it as I was going. So I didn't know
Yeah.
how many days this was going to take, right? And I'm like, okay, shit, I'm out of stuff. I'm like, okay, well, my listing presentation is pretty unique based on what everything else that I've seen. So I'm like, I'll just throw my listing presentation for tomorrow. And I did. And so I gave them a listing presentation. I was like, okay, great. I'm like, okay, and that's it. We're done, right? There's no more. And I was like, what? That's it? Like, we sign up for coaching or this or whatever? I'm like, no. I go, move forth and prosper, go frolic.
Yeah.
Right. I go, I gave you everything I have, and go enjoy. And that was it. So I just cut it. And those people were so happy and so grateful. And the things that they told me about, they finally knew what to do with their day and their business, and they knew their life was going to get better and all that stuff. That was the first time that I felt happiness in years.
Wow.
And that was the first time that I didn't want to kill myself in years. And that was November 17th. That was 5 weeks.
2019?
Yeah. I was 5 weeks away from killing myself, and I was still going through with it because I wasn't happy. I just wasn't moving in the right direction. So if I never made that post and those people never showed up for the course, I would not be here today. The course that didn't exist.
Yeah. Do you know who those 4 people are?
Oh yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Do they
And
know the magnitude that they had on your life?
they do now. Yeah. Not at the time, but yeah, they do now. And the crazy thing is like we're both at cloud attraction based brokerages. None of them are here at EXP. Crazy.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy. And so what you're teaching to them, these 4 strangers, probably helped them be where they are today.
Oh, I know I did. Yeah. They've all got, well, one doesn't, but the 3, they've got great careers. Yeah.
Isn't that insane? And there
Yeah.
you were, like in the lowest of the lows, like wanting to end your own life, and you reach out to help. You put some random post out there to help people, and that worked.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing is, so that was almost at my deadline. And like, I mean, like literally deadline.
Yeah.
And I craved that so much because again, that was the only thing that was making me happy. I ended up doing that for 18 straight months, every single week. I never missed a week ever. I ended up moving it from Monday to Friday, and I made a presentation out of it. Actually, the one of the guys, as a thank you, he made me my like day one from the notes. Yeah. He went to Google Sheets or something, Google something, and he made me like a presentation for the first day based on the notes he took. I'm like, oh, this is super cool. I'm a tech guy. I'm like, how does this work? And then he showed me how to build it out. So then I built out the other days from it, right? Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it turned into something a little bit bigger. But yeah, so I went 18 consecutive months, and I never missed it for free. And I never pitched anything. It was never, I literally just gave it to give. And what happened is I was still a nobody, right? Like, no, like who's tuning into this guy that's got no deals, no, not even a year in the So what I did, and I didn't have a big following. I started, my Instagram was 280 followers when I started.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would go on sites like Lab Coat Agents and Ricky Cruz Zero to Diamond and all those big Facebook groups, and people would be asking questions, and I would answer questions in there. And people were like, oh, wow, that's a really good answer. I'm like, oh, yeah, I talk about this on day 3 of my free thing, and I talk about this on day 2 of my this.
Yeah.
And when I would put the links in there, I get kicked out of groups all the time or banned for a week and all this stuff, right? But
yes, oh yeah.
But I put the links in there, and that's how I would get people to come into my training. And what happened is I wanted people to have it in the morning before their day started. So I would do an Eastern time zone, a Central time zone, and a Western time zone. What? So I started at like 4:30 in the morning for the New York people, and then it was 90 minutes about. Then a quick break, and then Central time zone, 90 minutes. Quick break, and then Western time zone, 90 minutes. And then I would go fishing for a couple hours, answering questions and putting the link to load up the next week's thing. And so I did that I never ever missed a week.
Wow.
And people would be like, why don't you just record this, or why don't you sell it or make it a course or whatever, like for sale?
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys have no clue why I'm doing this. Like, you guys think I want money? You guys think I like I need it, but you guys think I want money when this is literally keeping me alive, right? Like Fridays, because it ended up being on Friday, was the end day. I go, Fridays is the only reason I'm alive right now. And I could care less about money right now. Like I need it, but like literally I don't give. So, but imagine, again, like how good this stuff works, but considering that I would spend hours in the morning, like 5-6 hours.
Yes.
Giving the course, and another couple hours on Facebook groups trying to get people to the course, and then going to prospect for my business and closing deals. Right. And still doing, 103 and then 186 deals.
Which is insane. And you didn't have any help during that time, did you?
I had one admin.
Okay. Yeah. But still, that's a lot of deals. Like people, you guys in the real estate world, y'all know you start doing 100 deals a year, you're like working your face off.
Yeah. It was like almost 75 million I did that third year by myself.
That is insane. And your average price point there is like 400?
It went up. So like it was closer to 550 at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the market's all climbed, right? So.
Now, when you were going through all of that, you found like your peace, like this was your fix, pretty much, is what kept you alive. And I'm going to be face or on Zoom with these people every day. It's giving you a fix. It's what it was for your heart. It made your heart maybe softer again. Where
Yeah.
did God come into all of that, or when?
Yeah. So November again. So two years now it's been. And yeah, it was amazing, to be honest. Like, again, complete atheist, right? I've got nothing to do with any religion whatsoever. I used to think religion was like a big scam and all this stuff. I was like your typical hater, like super typical. And like I remember even like when I was younger, I dated a girl that was Catholic, and she would want me to go to church with her. So I would go. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, sit, stand, chant this, give money. I'm like, this is a cult. I'm like, this is
Yep.
crazy, right? From the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And that was my views of it. And so anyways, I was driving up to Edmonton. So that's a 3-hour city away. I guess like you're in Houston. So like Houston to Austin, I guess,
Yeah,
probably
for sure.
3 hours. But it's in the wintertime, so it's cold, right? And I drive a Tesla. Don't make fun of me. It's you know what? Go Elon Musk now. Now I'm happy because of who Elon is, but the car itself. But anyways, so I got a Tesla.
I'm with you. Yeah, second that.
So I'm driving from Calgary to Edmonton. It's a 3-hour drive, and it's in the wintertime. So the car literally only drives about an hour or so until it's out of battery, right? So it's and yeah, it's crazy, right? So I charge it to 100%. I drive to the city that's in the middle, which is like about an hour and a half away, and like I limp into the city with 1%. And then because it's cold, you got to sit on the charger for like 45 minutes to even an hour and a half till
Mm.
it starts charging. Because the battery's got to warm up and then it starts charging. And these chargers we're kilometers, so I don't know about miles, but we're
Yeah.
1,500 kilometers an hour. So I guess 1,000 miles an hour it probably charges, like with a fast
Okay.
charge. But it would only do 200 kilometers an hour. So that's like 130 miles an hour charging. So you got to sit on this charger for hours in the
Oh
winter.
my
It's
gosh.
terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So I knew that I had a super long drive to get up to Edmonton. And again, like we're with attraction brokerages. So I was going up there to sign a bunch of realtors actually.
Yeah.
And at this time, my life is good. So I've got no debt. I'm in a happy relationship. I've got saving, like everything is moving the right direction. I no longer have pain. I don't have emotional pain. I don't have financial pain. My life is truly good. I've got
Yeah.
no complaints at this time. I've made it onto the other side. I've already made $1 million in a year at this time, and like things are good, right? And so I'm taking my fucking 10-year commute up to Edmonton, and I get there, and it was with one main realtor that had like pockets of realtors that they wanted me to
Yep.
bring home. So I had a whole bunch of meetings that day. It's all day long. And if you've ever done an attraction meeting, it's tiring, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I have all these meetings all day, and they're all actually East Indian. We got a big East Indian population in Canada. And I love, that's a great, like my wife, when I was married, was East Indian, right? Like I love the culture. I love the people.
Okay.
And the last group was the main group. And so we met for dinner and we talked and all the stuff, and they were ready to sign. They're happy, but you can't just sign. You got to eat and you got to this and whatever. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. I'm like, I don't got time for this. So we ended up sitting there till like midnight, right? And I'm like, okay, guys, I got to go. Like, I know you love to party and all this stuff.
Yeah, I gotta go.
I got to go sit on a charger for a couple hours. I got a 3-hour more drive. So anyway, so I leave. And everybody's signing up. So we're talking like 65 realtors signing up in a day. And if you're part of it, you know that's a big day.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's an awesome day.
It's a big day. Yeah. And all good people, all good producers.
Yeah, even better.
Mm-hmm. And not a team, like pockets of people. So it's all good. Anyways, so I'm on the charger. I'm happy. Life is good. And I'm driving home. And it's like, I can't remember now. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. It's super early. And I'm driving, and I get a Tesla, so there's no noise. It's dead quiet. And I'm so awake. Like I've never been this awake in my life. And I've just been up for 24 hours because I had to leave at like 3:30 in the morning to get there, right? And I've just had all of these attraction meetings. And again, if you know, like that is super tiring. Like I'd rather
Yep.
have a physically tiring day than that because you're more
Yeah.
drained from the mental stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I'm wide awake. Like I'm literally like eyes open, wide awake. And I'm like, man, I didn't grab any water or Red Bull or like snack, like nothing. And there's no music on. It's dead quiet. I'm like, why don't I even have the radio on? Right? Like nothing. And I'm like, oh, something's wrong. Like something is not right because I should not be this awake. And there's nothing on. Like it's just
Yeah.
pure quietness. And you got to remember, there's no lights or nothing, right? Like it's not like there's street lights anymore. It's just black, right?
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Small towns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You have highways with no lights. Yeah.
No, but I've been in those little towns and it's like middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm driving and I'm like, oh man, something's wrong. Like something is really wrong here. And I think I'm like, I must be having a stroke. Like something's not right. And then all of a sudden, I literally float out of my body and I'm up maybe 15, 20 feet and I'm watching and I could see myself driving. And I'm like, oh shit, like at least there's autopilot, right, on the car. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm literally watching myself drive and I'm just floating in the air. I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden I hear a voice in my head and it goes, you need a better relationship with me. And I'm like, what? I'm like, who are you? And he goes, God. I'm like, what? He goes, you need a better relationship. And I get choked up on this. I go, you need a better relationship with me. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, how do I have a better relationship? He's like, find a way. Okay. And I had like a little more conversation. And then, yeah, I float down back into my body. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, literally, what just happened? So I Google it and I Google out of body experience. And what's the first thing that comes up? Stroke. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew I was having a stroke because there's no God, right? I'm atheist. I'm like, what just happened here? And so I Google it and it says stroke. And it's so crazy. I'm like, okay, well, at least I know what happened and I got to get to like a hospital or something, right? And as I'm driving home, I have an uncontrollable urge to listen to gospel music. And I've never in my life, like you couldn't pay me to listen to, like there's no chance. There's 0% chance. And so I listened the whole way home, almost a 3-hour drive, listened the whole way. And I'm just listening to it, cranked all the way. And I get home and it's like whatever, 3 or 4 in the morning, whatever it is. And I get home and I was dating a different girl at the time, but I told her, I'm like, this is a crazy experience. So I said what happened and everything. And she's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. I go, I just need to pray. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. So I did. I just hit my knees. I prayed for like a half hour and I don't know how to pray. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Right. Like it's just not my thing. So yeah, I just thank God for everything. So yeah, like all the struggles and all the stuff and all of the success, just everything. And I'm just like, thank you for everything, like all of it, right? The good and the bad. And then the next day, sorry, well, I guess that day, but when I woke up, I'm like, okay, like I need to find out who God is because I don't know who I just talked to.
I bet.
Sorry?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
No idea. So then I just made a plan to go visit 3 different like religious buildings every Sunday. So I'm like, I'll go to synagogues, I'll go to churches, I'll go to Gurdwalas, I'll go to mosques, because I don't know who I talked to. I just know that somebody came in my head and said that, right? So yeah, the first church that I went to was like I made a map of all the stuff that I'm going to do. And I went to this one, it's called Calgary Life Church, and it was a Christian church. And this is November, right? And the whole service was if this is your first day in church, and if this is your first day with like a relationship with Jesus, I get choked up on this. But
I love it though.
I'm like, how is this the message today? There's, I don't know, 500-600 people in this church. And I'm like, how is this the message today? Like, this is crazy. So yeah, and then yeah, I just felt perfect. Like everything was good. And then I went to a few other churches and just kind of tested the waters, other things, but that was the one that always hit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then just so I kept going back there. And I I had so many questions because I didn't know, right? I'm like one of the big ones is like, why do we thank Jesus for everything? Why does Jesus get all the credit? I'm like, I'm still doing the work. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't get it. I'm like I don't want to be ignorant. I just don't understand. I'm like, can you please help me, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that service was the great exchange when Jesus gave his life for us. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. There's my answer, right? And then the next week, I was thinking about it. I'm like, but how much credit do we give Jesus, right? Like, how
Yeah.
much are we really supposed to believe? Like, is it really all that much? And then I forget the people's names because I haven't studied the Bible, right? But
Well,
there's
you're
like,
new to this whole thing and you don't know.
yeah, right. But yeah, where Jesus tells those two guys to go into the camp of like the 30,000
Yeah.
Persians or whatever it is, and he says, go pray in the middle of the camp, right? And I'll protect you and you'll win and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's how much we're supposed to believe, right? But I asked the question, and that was the answer that day in church, right? And I'm like, okay. So I kept asking questions, and I kept getting my answer. I'm not asking to the priest or the pastor. I'm
Yeah.
just asking Jesus. I'm like, I need help, right? Like,
Right.
I just don't understand. So yeah, and then yeah, like even with my business, like I would always struggle because I've never really had a proper mentor or anything. And I would be like, I'm stuck. Like I need help with this. And I would go to church and it would literally be the unstuck answer from the gospel all the time. All the
So
time.
would you hear it in like that small voice in your head that
Oh no, no, no. That was just that one time. Yeah. Now I just whatever the pastor's talking about, right? It's just that lesson. And then I just kind of extrapolate what it means. And I'm
yeah.
like to me anyways. And yeah, every time, like it's crazy. It's been exactly what I needed, like exactly what I needed.
Do you go to church regularly now?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the most important day of the week. Yeah, yeah, all the
That's
time.
so crazy. Like you went from an atheist to a full-blown churchgoer. I love that though.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. Like I used to again make fun of like what would Jesus do, the bracelets and
Yeah.
stuff, right? And I just used to think it was so ridiculous. And now it's funny. Like we're doing our business planning for 2025, and I put a post about this. But the foundation of my business plan is literally what would Jesus do? Like that's literally the foundation of how we're moving forward and how would Jesus treat this person and how would he relate make this relationship and how would he set this deal up with people, right? And
Yeah.
it's literally yeah, it's how we base
Do
everything.
you find that you think differently now, having gone through like everything that you've went through and now having a relationship with God?
Oh yeah, two totally different people. Yeah, two totally different people. Yeah.
Can you look back now and like see things that happened that now you understand like why they happened?
Oh, it's incredible. It's so clear. And
Yep.
like there's like those I don't know what you call them, but like stories or song, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's the one where the guy looks back as the steps of his life, you know, the walking in the sand,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, the guy was talking about like, oh, like all the hard get choked up again, like all the hard times, all the hard times of your life. And it's like, God, why did you abandon me? And he's like, I didn't, right? You know the story,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And yeah,
What do you think you're supposed to do with all of this that you've been through and now where you are in your life?
just help. That's all I do. Yeah, that's all I do. Yeah. It's like, how can you make everybody's life around you better than before? And that's it. Right. That's why like literally every single thing that's set up in my business and my life and everything, it's literally just how can we help people? Like that's it.
Mhm.
Right. But
What
yeah,
do
so
your parents think of this?
they're happy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like uh yeah, like my mom is Jewish, right? There was a
Yeah.
Star Day and everything. Yeah, but she's happy. Yeah. Yeah, there's no problems. Yeah.
And now, like in the world, like and of course I saw like all of like as we were leading up to the election, because that's when I started following you is when I saw that. And so It's crazy, and I won't get political because people get stupid, but like I was one of those here, like I'm very vocal about my beliefs and I don't really give a shit if you like me or not. And
Yep.
so I was like, I never wavered on the election and who was going to win because I was like, I believe that good will overcome evil and that he's not done with us yet. Like it's our time now, and it's super cool because and then on Facebook and everything, like after the election, it was like so cool to see there were so many um posts about religion and God and faith, and it was like flooding the feeds, and it was like, that's cool as
Yeah.
crap, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like God's calling all those people back, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like all the people that were probably maybe the strongest opposition
Yeah.
is now the strongest voice. Like take a look at like take celebrities out of the mix, but like all of like the greatest athletes and the greatest all the stuff, like everybody is for God first.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Right?
which is so super cool. And now here we are in this real estate industry. And I run a team here in Houston, and I was telling my team two team meetings ago, I said I stumbled across this 10-year plan, and I believe in it now. I studied it, and it in the 10-year, and it's a business plan, and it talks about, and it's not just real estate, it's every business. It says there's a 10-year business cycle in every business. And in that 10 years, you're going to go through 2 really amazing years, 6 good years, and 2 horrible years that are going to just about make you go out of business. And I told my team, I was like, what if these 2 years in real estate where we have been challenged and the industry has been extremely hard and sales are hard and everyone's stretched super thin? What if, and it just happened to coincide with a freaking election year, what if these were our 2 worst years of the 10-year cycle and we're about to head into our 2 greatest years? Like,
Yeah.
bring it. I believe in it.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is your habits and your skills are built in the down markets. So what
Yes.
happens is if you can learn a prospect and you can learn to be mentally tough and get through all the stuff without any results right now, and you build the
Yes.
habits and the skills, as soon as the market does this even a little bit, you've now got the skills and the habits to take advantage of everything. And that's when you hockey stick, right? Where it's like fly,
Yep.
fly, fly, and boom. So
Yeah.
100%.
You
Yeah.
are like super amazing. You know, I hope people that listen to this, for one, most of them are real estate agents. They tune in, and lenders and everyone in our industry, but really everyone out there needs to hear, because we're all in some kind of challenge and we go through challenges, whether it's in your personal life, your business life, whatever. We all get into dark places sometimes, and there isn't, we don't think, a way out. And like you said, if I just let go, then I release it all. And I'm so glad that you didn't, because it's the saddest thing in the world when you hear of somebody that just can't do it and they do let go. It's like, gosh, that's never the answer, and it's never the solution.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't have to be. No,
Mm-mm.
it
What's
is not.
your thoughts, Shawn, for people that are paying attention out there, for people that maybe are struggling, and it's, we're coming up on the holidays where people sometimes go through a rough batch. What would you tell that listener out there?
Oh, I remember the worst ones. Like we've got a really, really good family. My parents and my sister with the kids, like all that stuff. And yeah, like there was years where I couldn't get my niece and my nephew a Christmas present or anything. Like it wasn't possible, right? So yeah, like I remember the lonely days and the horrible times and the thoughts in your head and everything. And yeah, the best advice if you're in that situation is, excuse me, to make a schedule that makes you super busy based on prospecting, especially from the real estate world.
Yep.
So what happens is don't have like social media as your main thing at this particular time. This is when you go door knocking all day and cold calling and warm calling all day. That's it. And what happens is you'll be so busy doing the work that you won't be able to sit and have the thoughts in your head. You'll turn deals over, you'll start stuff going, and that little bit of success from the work you're doing will start to make you feel a certain different type of way. And then you can start building off of that. But a big thing that I learned, most depression comes from financial stress, most that I've encountered. And you don't even have to be that broke. You just have to be broker than where you were. I think a lot of people, they don't understand like, oh, people have it worse than you. And people who are think of the kids in Africa or think of the whatever. And yes, horrible, right? But what happens is I don't like in my experience of what I've seen, it's not as low as you go. It's the distance down that you traveled that amplifies depression. So for example, again, like I was never rich or anything like that, but I had a great life. We're happy, we own property, we had investments. Like life was really, really, really good
Yeah.
and really, really comfortable. And I was only working 20, 24 hours a week, right? Like I had a
Wow.
I blessed at that time for a really good job. We only had to work for like literally 20 to 24 hours a week, and we're making, $200,000 a year or more. And
Nice.
like that's good, right? Like
Yes.
the work back, like everything was good back then.
Yeah.
And then I fell to no income, no money, complete debt, all that stuff. Was there people that were worse than me? Yeah, for sure. Like absolutely there were people worse than me. But had they fallen this far or
Right.
were they already kind of there? So I don't think it's like people like, oh, you have it worse, you have it worse. It's like I think you need to see how far people fall. And that is really the determination of like how deep the depression hits, if that makes sense, right?
It does.
And yeah, so anyways, so the advice is just work. Like I know it sounds crazy, but just work and just don't let that voice get into your head and do the activities that take up the most mental equity, right? So the thing with
Yeah.
social media is you're not going to do it. You're going to scroll, you're going to waste time, you're not going to post. Like, just be real with each other, right?
Right.
And that's going to make you feel worse. And then you're just going to be in your head, and in your head is the worst place to be. So get out and do the things you don't want to do, but that take up the most mental bandwidth, and you will get results from it. Not as good as you could from social media, but that's not what you're looking for right now, right?
No.
Like so people are trying to solve the bottleneck or the wall that's 3 steps ahead, not realizing that they can't even get past. Like you got to get past the wall that you're at.
Yep.
We call it every level has its devil, and
Oh, I like that.
yeah, but you need to deal with the devil that you're at. You
Yeah.
can't deal with this demon if you're only here. So this is the one that we have to conquer. And if again, I love bottlenecks. Like I think that's why we've been able to grow so fast is because I love hitting them and I love solving the problem. So what happens is if we're depressed in our mind and we're sad in our mind, well, okay, well, we need to occupy our mind so that pushes that out. Right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Right.
Yep.
So we're like, but I don't like door knocking. I don't care. That's not what you're doing it for.
Right.
You right. You're doing it
Yes.
because you need to solve this problem before you solve this problem.
Yeah.
Right. And then yeah, I don't in my experience, I don't think you can properly deal with depression and anxiety until you've lifted the financial blanket off. That financial burden is so heavy,
It
it
is.
weighs so much. You need to lift this off
Yep.
so that this can breathe, and then you can start dealing with the emotional stuff. I don't think it's even worth talking about the emotional stuff until the financial burden is gone.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because so many people get consumed by it because it causes mad anxiety. It causes you, like you said, your heart's going 100 miles an hour. You've got freaking hives. Like it brings out all kinds of craziness. It's like, I just need to get this off of me. This is not
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. And then you've got the room, right? Like you've got the room
Yeah.
to see what's actually the pain. Because you might think it's something that's totally different.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that you got on here today. Hey, how can people get in touch with you, Shawn? Because I'm sure people are going to be like, I need to talk to him. Like he does all this free stuff. I need help. How can they find you?
Instagram is the easiest. Just Shawn Getty is yeah. And then always
Um,
yeah, I don't mean to be a snob or nothing, but sometimes you got to send me a couple messages. I just
you have to
like
chase him down.
yeah, and I don't like I'm not a snobby person. I'm not an ego like oh I'm this or whatever. I just I'm really hands on with the team and
Yeah.
a lot of stuff like yeah, just some I don't mean to, sometimes I'll leave you on red and I don't even mean to. Right? I'm literally reading a message and I get pulled in 6 different directions. I'm like shit, right? And I
Yeah.
just don't do it. So like
No.
if you do happen to mess, sometimes you just got to get me a couple times in a row.
Yeah.
So
Be persistent, be relentless. Like, you hear he has a story to tell, and it's a good story. It has a great ending, and you're just getting started. Like, you went through all of that trial and tribulation, and look where it brought you. And like, God's got amazing things ahead of you in your future. I'm so glad that you pulled through all of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're here today too. So you guys, there's hope always. If you've been coming through the last couple of years of a hard time, maybe you're in your 2-year bad cycle of that 10-year, and the next 2 are going to be amazing. So never give up, never lose faith. Like, there's always hope out there, and reach out to people, find people that you can talk to. Reach out to Shawn, reach out to me. Like, we're here to bring hope and positivity to this world. Remember, there are brighter days ahead. Shawn, thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys have an awesome day. Bye, y'all.
See you.